Alongside the personal grief that all my family are feeling, we also share with so many of you in the United Kingdom, in all the countries where the Queen was head of state, in the Commonwealth, and across the world.
For decades, the royal family has been untouchable, admired by millions, shielded by power, and wrapped in centuries of tradition. But behind the palaces and pageantry, there are stories the crown would rather you never hear. Stories that raise one unsettling question: how deep does the cover-up really go? And why does Prince Andrew's name keep surfacing whenever those secrets are mentioned? Because this isn't just gossip. There's real evidence, whispered scandals, and rumors so persistent that even the palace's silence speaks louder than any denial. From hidden connections to fallen friends, from photographs that shouldn't exist to interviews that changed everything, this story exposes what happens when royalty collides with the one man the world should have stayed away from. It all started with one friendship that should never have existed: Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein, the connection that shattered the image. In the glamorous circles of the 1990s and early 2000s, Prince Andrew was seen as the charming, outgoing royal, a man who mingled effortlessly with the world's elite. But among the billionaires, politicians, and celebrities in his orbit, one name would later stain his reputation forever: Jeffrey Epstein. Behind Epstein's wealth and influence hid a much darker reality, one that would eventually unravel in front of the world. In 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty in Florida to charges involving a minor, a conviction that should have ended every respectable friendship he had. Yet 2 years later, in 2010, Prince Andrew was photographed with him walking through New York's Central Park. Andrew later insisted he had only met Epstein to end their friendship, but few found that explanation convincing. The photo told a different story, one of comfort, not confrontation. Then came the photograph that became impossible to ignore. Prince Andrew with a young woman named Virginia Giuffre, smiling for the camera while Ghislaine Maxwell stood in the background. Virginia alleged years later that she had been forced into encounters with the prince when she was underage, a claim Andrew has always firmly denied. Still, the image itself, undeniable and chilling, ignited global outrage and endless questions about what was really going on behind closed doors. When the scandal resurfaced in 2019, Andrew attempted to clear his name with a BBC interview that would become one of the most disastrous royal moments in modern history. His awkward explanations, strange alibis, and emotionless tone only deepened public disbelief. Viewers weren't convinced, they were furious. Within days, his public duties were gone, his royal role effectively erased, and his reputation shattered. But that interview was just the start, because soon, everything the royals tried to hide would spiral into public view. The royal shield, how the palace protected him. After the fallout from the BBC interview, Prince Andrew announced he would be stepping back from public duties for the foreseeable future. To many, that sounded like accountability, but behind palace walls, things weren't so simple. Despite losing his official titles and patronages, Andrew continued to enjoy privileges that most could only dream of. The royal residences, the security, the quiet financial backing, it all stayed intact. To critics, it looked less like punishment and more like protection. Then, in early 2022, the legal storm reached its peak. Andrew quietly settled the lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre, avoiding a public trial that could have forced evidence and testimony into the open. The terms were sealed, and as always, the agreement came with no admission of guilt. For the palace, it was a lifeline, a way to end the story without ever letting the world hear it in full. But the royal family's silence spoke volumes. No statements, no apologies, no acknowledgement beyond the bare minimum. It felt as if the institution was closing ranks around one of its own, using centuries of influence to keep the damage contained. After all, scandal and royalty have never mixed well, and history shows how far the palace will go to preserve its image. Some believe this silence wasn't protection, it was containment, a quiet strategy to keep the rot from spreading any further. And this wasn't the first time tragedy and cover-up seemed to walk hand in hand with royalty. The Princess Diana conspiracy, the death that changed everything. It was August 31st, 1997, the night that changed everything. Princess Diana, her companion Dodi Fayed, and their driver crashed inside Paris's Pont de l'Alma tunnel. The official story was simple. The driver was intoxicated, chased by paparazzi, and lost control at high speed. But almost immediately, people began to notice details that didn't add up. Witnesses claimed the ambulance took far too long to reach the hospital. Reports surfaced that Diana was still alive when rescuers arrived. Yet medical help was delayed for reasons never fully explained. Her body was embalmed within hours, an unusual move that prevented a full toxicology report. And despite global demand for transparency, no complete autopsy was ever made public. To some, these weren't coincidences. They were signs of something deeper being covered up. Then came the whispers of a secret that could have shaken the monarchy itself. Many believe Diana was pregnant with Dodi Fade's child, a claim that, if true, would have caused a scandal of historic proportions. Some reports claim members of the royal circle feared how that revelation could redefine the royal bloodline and the family's image forever. Adding to the mystery was a chilling piece of evidence, a handwritten letter from Diana herself, written months before her death. In it, she described fears that someone was planning an accident with her car, a prediction that sounded disturbingly close to what actually happened. Was it just paranoia, or did she truly know what was coming? And Diana's story isn't the only rumor that challenges what we think we know about royal bloodlines. The secret child theory, Diana and Charles's alleged hidden heir. Among the strangest and most persistent royal rumors is what fans call the secret child theory. It claims that before their marriage, Princess Diana and Prince Charles underwent a medical procedure to ensure Diana could conceive, involving the collection and fertilization of her eggs through IVF. The story goes that one of those embryos was allegedly implanted into another woman without Diana's knowledge, resulting in a hidden child born in secrecy. Over the years, online forums and tabloids have picked apart the details, from supposed hospital timelines to whispers of royal medical cover-ups. But even among believers, the logistics never fully align. There's no verified record of any such embryo transfer, and every traceable document contradicts the story. Still, that hasn't stopped speculation from thriving, especially among those convinced the palace would erase any trace if it were true. The most sensational claim ties the mystery to a woman named Sarah, said to be living quietly in the United States, a supposed daughter, who some fans claim bears an uncanny resemblance to Diana. The story's sources are murky, the evidence non-existent, yet the theory refuses to die. For some, it's just another wild internet fantasy. For others, it's the ultimate royal secret, hidden in plain sight. Wild as that sounds, it's not the strangest rumor attached to royal DNA. The queen who wasn't the boy who became Elizabeth I. Long before the scandals of the modern royals, there was a rumor that could rewrite centuries of British history, the Bisley Boy theory. It dates back to the 1500s and claims that Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, wasn't who she claimed to be at all. According to the legend, the real young Elizabeth fell gravely ill and died while staying in the village of Bisley, terrified of the king's wrath. Her caretakers allegedly replaced her with a local boy who looked strikingly similar, a boy who would later ascend the throne as England's most iconic monarch. The story gained momentum centuries later when workers reportedly discovered a small coffin buried in Bisley, containing the remains of a child dressed in noble clothing. To believers, this was the ultimate proof that something had gone terribly wrong and been covered up. Skeptics, however, dismissed it as folklore twisted over time. Still, the legend's endurance lies in what it suggests, that one of history's most powerful queens may have built her reign on a secret identity. Part of what makes the Bisley Boy tale so fascinating is how it subverts everything the monarchy represents: gender, power, and divine right. The idea that the symbol of royal purity and strength could have been an imposter forces people to question how much of royal truth is actually just performance. It's speculative, yes, but undeniably captivating, and centuries later the mystery still refuses to fade. But modern DNA science brought its own bombshell centuries later: the DNA mystery, the royals' broken bloodline. In 2012, scientists made a discovery that sent shockwaves through British history. Beneath a parking lot in Leicester, archaeologists uncovered the remains of King Richard III, the last Plantagenet monarch, missing for over 500 years. When researchers tested the DNA to confirm his identity, they didn't just find him, they found something far more unsettling. The results revealed a non-paternity event somewhere along the royal line, meaning at some point in history a king's supposed heir wasn't actually his biological child. In simpler terms, someone in the royal bloodline wasn't truly of royal blood. It's a scientific revelation that quietly shatters the myth of an unbroken royal lineage and raises questions the monarchy would rather never answer. If the royal line isn't biologically royal, what does that mean for the crown itself? Could centuries of heritage, power, and tradition be built on a lie that science accidentally exposed? It's the kind of discovery that makes you wonder how many other truths in history were carefully crafted to protect the image of power. And that question brings us full circle, because power, legacy, and secrets are the only things that never change. The crown and the shadows behind it, from Prince Andrew's downfall to Princess Diana's mysterious death, from whispers of hidden heirs to centuries-old DNA shocks, one thing becomes clear: every generation of royals carries its own secrets. The faces may change, the scandals evolve, but the pattern never fades. Behind every polished photo and royal wave, there's always another story waiting to be uncovered. Maybe the truth about the crown isn't in its jewels or traditions at all. Maybe it's in what stays hidden, the cover-ups, the rumors, the truths buried under layers of history and power, because in the end, it's not about who wears the crown, but what they're hiding beneath it. What do you think? Which royal secret feels the most real to you, and which do you believe is still being kept from the world? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that uncover the truth behind the throne.